Imagine you spent 30 years diligently maxing out your TFSA. It's grown into a six-figure tax-free nest egg. You've done everything right. But then the unthinkable happens. Your grieving spouse goes to the bank to claim that money, only to find out that because of one tiny word you missed on a form years ago, the tax-free part of your account vanishes. Suddenly, the CRA is knocking. There are probate fees eating into the balance, and your spouse is told they can't even put that money into their own TFSA because they don't have the room. You didn't just leave them money. You left them a tax bill and a legal nightmare. If you're a Canadian with a spouse and a TFSA, you are likely sitting on a ticking time bomb. Today, I'm showing you the one-word fix that saves your legacy. We're decoding the beneficiary versus successor holder trap before it's too late. Most Canadians know that the TFSA is the greatest wealth building tool we have, but there is a massive tax trap hidden in the fine print that most people and even some bank advisors get wrong. If you tick the wrong box on your application, your tax-free gains could vanish the moment you pass away, leaving your grieving family with a surprise bill from the CRA. Today, we are breaking down the CRA's official rules on successor holders versus beneficiaries so you can protect your legacy. So I spent years as a wealth manager at one of Canada's biggest banks, and here's the thing. I saw firsthand how many families were blindsided by this. When a TFSA holder passes away, the account doesn't just stay tax-free indefinitely by default. From the CRA's perspective, the clock starts ticking the moment a person is deceased. Generally, there are three paths that a TFSA can take. It goes to a successor holder, it goes to a designated beneficiary, or it falls into the estate. The path your money takes depends specifically on what you have put in writing. If you're sitting there thinking, I think I named my spouse, I think isn't good enough. Because the tax implications between these options are night and day, let's start with the gold standard of designations. First, the successor holder. The most powerful designation you can have is the successor holder. Only a spouse or a common law partner can be a successor holder. Just a heads up. But here's why this is the gold standard. If you name your spouse as the successor holder, they essentially step into your shoes. The account stays tax-free, it doesn't need to be closed, and most importantly, the value of your TFSA, no matter how large, is moved into their TFSA without affecting their contribution rule. So let's say you have $100,000 in your TFSA and your spouse has $100,000 in theirs. If you pass away, they now have a $200,000 TFSA. They don't need $100,000 of new room to make this happen. It's a seamless transition. Any income earned after the date of death also remains tax-free. It is quite literally the best way to preserve tax-free compounding for a couple. But what if you want to leave your TFSA to your children or a sibling? Well, this is where things get complicated. A designated beneficiary can be anyone. Kids, ex-spouses, or even a registered charity. But the CRA treats this very differently. When a TFSA holder dies, the TFSA technically stops being a TFSA at the end of the exempt period. The amount that was in the account at the exact moment of death, the fair market value, is paid out to the beneficiary tax-free. But here's the catch. Any growth, interest, or dividends earned in that account after the date of death is taxable to the beneficiary. If it takes a year to settle the estate and that $100,000 grows into $110,000, your beneficiary has to pay income tax on that $10,000 gain. So now I'm going to let you in on a little secret, because we're about to get into the survivor rollover trick, which is the only way a spouse can fix a beneficiary mistake. But before we do, if you find this Canadian finance breakdown helpful, hit that subscribe button. I release deep dives like this every week to help you keep more of your money away from the CRA. So now back to the rules. So if you're a spouse and you were accidentally named as a beneficiary instead of a successor, don't panic. there is a safety net called an exempt contribution. The survivor can take the money they received as a beneficiary and contribute it to their own TFSA without using their room, if they do it within the designation period. And this usually means by December 31st of the year following the death. But there's a massive paperwork hurdle here. You must file Form RC240 with the CRA within 30 days of making that contribution. If you miss that form, the CRA will look at that $100,000 deposit, whatever, and slap you with an over-contribution penalty at 1% per month. And this is why a successor holder is much safer, so much safer. But if your spouse is still living, please double check if you have set them up as a beneficiary or successor holder on the account, because you do have the opportunity to update the account while we are still in existence. Okay, so double check that with your financial institution, please. Well, what if you didn't name anyone, or what if you named the estate? Well, this is the worst case scenario. The TFSA assets fall into your general estate, and this means the money is now subject to probate fees. And it can be held up in court for months or years. Just like the beneficiary rules, any money earned after death is taxable. But now it's the estate that pays the tax. If your goal was to provide quick, tax-free cash to your loved ones to pay for a funeral or immediate bills, naming the estate is the slowest and most expensive way to do it. So here's a few important steps that you need to take to keep more of your savings, even in the afterlife. Let's recap the CRA rule of thumb to make sure you are set up correctly. 1, if you have a spouse or partner, check your TFSA right now. Ensure they are listed as a successor holder, not just a beneficiary. This keeps the account alive and tax-free forever. 2, if you are leaving money to kids, name them as designated beneficiaries. They get the death value tax-free, but tell them to settle the account quickly so they don't get hit with tax on the post-death growth. 3, if you are a surviving spouse and you were named a beneficiary, remember the date. December 31st of next year. That is your deadline to move that money into your own TFSA using the exempt contribution rule. So estate planning isn't just about wills and life insurance, okay? It's about the small boxes that you tick on your banking apps. A simple change from beneficiary to successor can save your spouse months of paperwork and thousands in potential taxes. So for your convenience, I've gone ahead and linked the official CRA documents in the description below so you can read the fine print for yourself. And if you have any questions about how your specific bank or financial institution handles these designations, because some are easier than others, drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. Cheers.